Glaives are the most unique weapon in all of Destiny 2. Its high build form of melee, shooting like a normal weapon, and a built-in shield drew a lot of attention when they were first revealed back in the Witch Queen trailer. People were extremely excited about Glaive. Content creators were making Glaive builds to show its potential at launch. Even some articles are mostly positive with Glaive as well. But without the support from artifact mods, their usage plummeted. Glaive showed some crucial flaws that Bungie desperately needed to fix. And what did they do? Only small buffs from time to time. Until episode Heresy, they finally dropped the bomb that has improved Glaive in every major way. With 2 new artifact mods and more quality of life changes, Glaive has finally become the talking point again. That is where I started using Glaive more seriously. Since then, I have used Glaive for the past 4 months in as many activities as I possibly can. Now I think I can answer the question of why one of the best weapon archetypes in the game will never be popular in the future. But why do I think so highly of it in the first place? Because just like many others, I was obsessed with its unique way of combining a weapon and a sword in a complete package. If you can master this Glaive exclusive playstyle, it has the potential to outperform many special weapons for its unmatched survivability and utility, or do crazy damage while tanking almost everything in the hardest content if you go for a dedicated Glaive melee build. However, Bungie has made 2 big changes to Glaive melee in Edge of Fate that unlock a higher ceiling for Glaive, in exchange of making Glaive much harder to use in general. First, Bungie reduced the base Glaive melee damage by 40% against minors and majors, 28.5% against champions and mini-bosses, and a whopping 50% against bosses and vehicles. On the upside, Glaive melee is now reclassified as unpowered melee. That means Glaive melee has access to more buffs, unique interaction with certain perks and aspects, like knockout ceiling with Glaive melee final blow. But naturally, if they reduce the melee damage by a minimum of 28.5%, you might be thinking, is it gonna be hard to kill enemies without any investment? And is it the end for Glaive melee builds? For that, I did some testing from -10 all the way to mythic difficulty and see how it does. The result might surprise you. For minor or red bar enemies, nearly 80% of them can be killed within a single 3-hit combo, even in mythic missions without any buffs. It matches the new health scaling for red bar enemies in higher power delta activities. This is identical to the past compared to some Glaive videos in episode Heresy. Mages, which are orange bar enemies, brought the biggest surprise in my testing. I thought it was gonna be a disaster, but utility Glaive builds perform surprisingly well post rework, holding up even in -30 activities with no buffs. But it all depends on the enemy type on the field. Some can be killed within 1 to 2 projectile shot plus 1 full melee combo. Others, especially against enemies with shields, are much worse. They are struggling to kill anything in -30 activities, and this is where I think Bungie has set the line for utility builds and say,
hey, maybe you should use other weapons or abilities to clear them instead.
For champions and mini-bosses, I guess most people won't try to brute force them without an actual Glaive melee build, so it is kinda pointless to test that. But if you're using them, the good news is, Glaive melee builds are now perform better compared to the past. The same can be extended to bosses. Even with the 50% damage nerf, they only do slightly less damage than before. For normal ads, these builds are still crushing them with ease. So, what can we take away from these results? First, most of you guys can rest assured that as long as you are not using Glaive melee to brute force an orange bar or a high tier enemy with no investment, you will mostly be fine. Second, I think Bungie has separated Glaive players into 2 groups. One treats Glaive as their main weapon, charging into enemies with powerful melees. The other is focused on Glaive's utility and defensive capabilities, which means Glaive melee isn't the priority, and I think they nailed this balance. When you do need to melee with little to no investment, they are at least usable, while dedicated Glaive melee builds are close or sometimes even better than before. Third, with Glaive melee now counted as unpowered melee, the build variety for it has increased dramatically. Strength Titan's dominance as the definitive Glaive melee build is no more. Warlock and Titan are able to compete with Titan, as I think the background footage that you are seeing is a good indication for it. So, with these changes in mind, why don't we take a look at some exotic glaives that I've used before, especially when there are not that many to talk about in the first place. Starting with Fast Caliber, it is easily my most favorite glaive. While blocking, it provides void overshoot to you and nearby allies. Then, killing enemies with Fast Caliber's melee while being shielded will grant full overshield and refresh its duration. If you ask me, this is the most balanced glaive in the game. Its unique way of getting foiled overshield, in addition with the buff in Revenant with increased damage resistance, you can basically use fast caliber anywhere you want. It provides both excellent defensive and offensive capabilities. Block with the shield is basically having free healing, with 97.5% DR while blocking with Glaive, and an additional 70% DR from foiled overshield. You can generate HP by simply blocking while enemies are still attacking you, even in -40 activity. If you want to go offensive, the 20% melee damage increase by just having an overshield is more than enough to roam free in a lot of -30 or sometimes -40 activities. So you can imagine how strong it is if you have a Glaive melee build to pair with Fast Caliber's infinite overshield. Next, we have Winterbite, the only Glaive in the heavy slot. You have probably seen some crazy clips in episode Heresy with Nobel artifact mods to one-face a lot of bosses. But after the Glaive melee rework and a direct nerf to Winterbite's melee damage, it has certainly fallen off quite a bit. But it remains to be the highest DPS Glaive in the game. Also, its ability to apply slow with melee hits makes it not only good at stunning overloads, but also a great tool to proc stylish executioner for infits on Prismatic Hunter or Diamond Lance on Prismatic Titan. Oh, and here's a little tip to use Winterbite to maximize its damage against tougher enemies. You can grab a rapid fire stasis fusion or Tinasha with chill clip to shoot the enemy first, and then the first 2 hits of the Winterbite melee will freeze the enemy, which makes the final hit of the combo that not only deals double damage, but also a 120% increased melee damage against frozen targets. It is super useful if you want to kill a tanky enemy in a few hits. Moving on, I want to talk about the 3 class-specific exotic glaives. If you don't remember them, that is completely fine, because they were really horrible when they first launched back in the Witch Queen. But Bungie has set them free in episode Heresy and made them work with any class. Not only that, they also made a charge shot to be able to build from both projectile and melee hits. So how do they perform after these massive changes? Edge of Intent is my personal favorite among the 3, because it provides great survivability. The charge shot creates a killing turret that grants cure and restoration ×1 for every 3 seconds. For builds that lack healing, Edge of Intent will be a great tool for sustain. In fact, the footage that you are seeing is what I use to solo mythic missions without Devour on Prismatic Warlock. The only healing source here is the healing turret from this Glaive. The Edge of Action is another solid glaive for survivability. The charge shot creates a mini bubble that works just like a normal one, and the best part is, you can put multiple bubbles on the ground. I'm talking about 3 or even 4 of these mini bubbles on the field at the same time. So not only will you be able to protect yourself, but your teammates as well. It also means Void Titan has another toy to play around. For example, if you can score a projectile final blow with Edge of Action in a group of ants, it will create a volatile explosion. Pairing it with controlled demolition to spread the volatile effect with melee hits, then each volatile explosion heals you for better sustain. Not only that, the bubble's overshield activates offensive bulwark for faster grenade regen, and a 160% increased melee damage that will help you clear enemies faster while getting 10 HP overshield with each kill like a mini Devourer. The Edge of Concurrence on the other hand is more of an aggressive glaive, so I didn't use it that much, but I still managed to solo a GM fighting ops with this. Its charge shot damage is surprisingly high, while applying jolts for decent act clear. It is a solid glaive for builds that have great sustain, but lacks decent damage and act clear. For legendary glaives and their useful perk combos, please go watch this video. The link is in the description. My glaive journey started by watching this video, so please send him some love if you can. And if I'm able to pique your interest in trying glaive, I'm really happy to hear that. And here is a quick how to get started guide. First things first, Glaive is a hybrid weapon. Don't assume you can master this weapon in a single day or 2. You'll slowly start having the instinct of doing certain things once you play long enough. But that takes time, and this is where a good Glaive build will help you tremendously at getting over this obstacle. So here is the Strength Titan build using Wishful Ignorance that I recommend. You might be thinking, why not use Avant-Garde or Silver Saps to make Glaive melee hit harder? That's because most people only use this weapon in isolation, either like a normal weapon with a shield or a sword for melee damage, but never in its complete package as a whole. So this build aims to not you over-reliant on damage increasing exotic and use Glaive in its purest form without worrying about being surrounded by 3+ enemy with Silver Saps or a constant pressure of maintaining higher stack with Avant-Garde. The only thing you need is to have fun with the Glaive in your hand. Melee some ass, block when you're dying, or kill an ad or 2 with the projectile. If you need some burst damage, switch your weapon and spam Fletcher Storm. or use your super. This build is here to let you experience the potential of Glaive while not forcing you to use Glaive 99% of the time. After you have spent some time with Glaive, let me tell you about the most important melee combo. It is called 1-2-3 shield. Here's how you do it. Right after the final hit of the combo, tap block to remove the reset animation and start the next melee combo right away. As you can see in this comparison, doing this simple technique has slightly higher DPS with one additional input compared to just spamming the melee button. After all that, it is time to start your own Glaive journey and make some builds with it. If you don't feel like doing that, here are the builds that I used while recording this video. They are doing pretty good even in -30 or -40 activities. Before we go any further, I want to quickly mention the tech set armor bonus. The 2-piece and 4-piece bonus are both great for Glaive melee. The 2-piece will grant you 200% increased damage against any combatant shield with Glaive melee hit, which essentially ignores the 50% damage reduction against not matching elemental shield. The 4-piece bonus is even better. While breaking a combatant shield or killing an orange bar or higher tier enemy with Glaive melee, you will trigger a disorient blast to make nearby ass spinning circles instead of attacking you. For Glaive melee build, this armor set bonus is extremely good as it provides an additional layer of survivability. Did you notice that for the past 11 minutes, I only have good things to say about Glaive? This is how much I really love this weapon in general. However, how can such a versatile weapon not receive any popularity after its debut? And how is the situation going to get worse in the future? In spite of the fact that Glaives receive really well at launch, it's hugely thanks to the 4 insane artifact perks that made them become the meta at the time. But outside of that, Glaive's damage is lower than other special weapons and harder to use with lots of bugs. Even when Bungie did fix most of the issues in the future, the damage is done. Most people really don't care about Glaive in the slightest. So, even when Episode Heresy tries to do the same thing again by adding artifact perks with some great changes, more people are seeing the potential of Glaive, but in reality, they are still not buying it because Glaive's reputation has been ruined for a very long time, especially for the people like me who tried it at launch and realized that it feels horrible to use. I think this is a universal problem that we can all agree on, right? When you think a perk like Sword Logic will increase the melee damage, but in reality, it actually only works with the projectile shot. So for people that actually want to try Glaives, they either have to look for a YouTube video or go to this beautiful spreadsheet made by Omni Black Mage to know which perk actually works with which part of the Glaive, and see if it matches with the build that they were using. It doesn't sound so bad for the people like you who are watching this video because you are eager to learn more about the game, but for the vast majority of players out there who just want to have a good time in Destiny 2, do you think they would go to such lengths just to try a new weapon? Or are they just going to give it a try and realize that it sucks and never use it again? As I've said time and time again in this video, Glaive is not an easy weapon to master. Unlike other weapons that only care about aiming it at the right target, it takes practice and awareness that most other weapons don't demand. Because of that, the skill floor for Glaives is much higher, and for a lot of players, it just isn't worth the effort to learn. On top of that, the landscape of the entire sandbox has changed dramatically in the past 2 years, with all the new weapon archetypes like Area Denial GL and Special Hand Cannon that makes us even stronger. The defensive capabilities from Glaives aren't that important now. For most players, if they can clear activities without using Glaives, why would they even bother to learn it in the first place? This is why I didn't use Edge of Concurrence that much. Its biggest strength of using the charge shot to clear ass has been diminished by other weapon archetypes. With the launch of the final shape, builds like Silversap's Consecration Titan, Silversap's Lightning Surge Warlock, and Last Handshake Combination Blow Hunter are really strong, and all of them are basically doing what Glaive melee build does, but better. If players can melt an entire room by just spamming abilities, why bother using a Glaive for each shield when you can just nuke them in the first place? But this is the current sandbox that we're living in, especially after the release of the Edge of Fate, which made spamming abilities even easier and deadlier at the same time. It has made the defensive capabilities of Glaive much less relevant, which is another reason why this weapon will stay niche in the near future. As you can see, there are some old recurring issues that have made the entry for Glaive harder for casual players, and some new problems that started surfacing for the past 2 years. However, there's another new problem that Glaives have to deal with in the future since the release of the Edge of Fate, the new ammo economy. In my opinion, this is the final nail in the coffin that will make most Glaive builds disappear. So let me explain. Before Edge of Fate, one of the main advantages, a big part of why Glaive was such a flexible weapon, was reliable ammo generation, as each kill counted as a weapon kill. But I don't know if this is a bug or intended interaction. When I'm editing this video, any Glaive final blows, including projectile final blow, have a fixed ammo generation stat of 20, the lowest compared to any other special weapons. It is the same as an ability kill. You might argue that Glaives can melee without ammo, so generating less ammo is mainly for balancing. This statement is not wrong, only for dedicated Glaive melee build, because they are indeed using Glaive melee to kill most enemies. But this is a disaster for utility Glaive build, especially when you consider the melee nerf. You are killing things slower across the board, taking more damage, and blocking more often, so you will end up shooting more Glaive ammo to sustain the shield. This is a big downgrade for players that used double special with Glaive in the past. That means for most utility Glaive builds out there, players have to choose between using a primary weapon, which I already said was in a really bad state, or deal with horrible ammo economy with double special. However, that's not all. The other problem that makes Glaive even less recognized in Edge of Fate is the new Avant-Garde modifier. If you pay attention, Glaive is the only weapon archetype that did not receive any new weapons in Edge of Fate and Ash and Iron. That means you can even use it in a new Conquest mission, where the defensive capability of Glaive will be very useful when you are under 40 or even under 50 light levels. This is why I think utility builds with Glaive are dead to me in my heart. I did show you guys some really cool builds that work pretty well even in solo mythic missions, and I had a joy using them while recording this video, but I know damn well that I will never use them unless I'm too bored at the game. There are simply so many builds that work better without Glaive and are much easier to use. And that leads to where Glaives stand right now. They are still the most versatile weapon, playable in two completely different styles, aggressive melee or defensive utility, but they have been power crept by new special weapons and ability spamming that thrive in this aggressive sandbox, where Glaive's defensive capability feel less relevant, even pointless at times. The erosion drives state unpopularity, and you stay like this unless the meta shifts. And the only Glaive builds that still have a place in the current meta are dedicated melee builds. The only reason that they still have a fighting chance is they are just a worse version of a pure melee setup, so it won't suffer the same ammo issue as an utility Glaive build. However, even though Glaives are probably in their darkest time for now, I still want to give some feedback that can make Glaives more accessible to more players. First, clarify perk tests for Glaives. Take Demolitionist as an example. If the perk is on Glaive, you should say Final Blow with Glaive projectile grant grenade energy, so players instantly know it doesn't trigger on melee. Second, fix ammo generation stat for Glaive. Keep melee at a fixed 20, but make the projectile Final Blow inherit the Glaive's ammo generation stat. Third, reduce the melee nerf against mages to around 25 to 30%. Let me be clear, there are some enemies that can be killed within a reasonable amount of time, but for the vast majority of them, like this stupid servitor, the 40% nerf is a little bit too much for casual players to handle. 4. Release a new Glaive that can take advantage of the new gear bonus, or remove the Avant-Garde modifier entirely. This is the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe, as I'll be talking about how to run double special loadouts super easily with the new ammo economy in the next video. If you want to discuss more stuff about Destiny 2, you can join my Discord server with the link in the description. I'll see you guys very soon. Bye bye!